of the most admirable chasers you could possibly wish to see.
Hello and welcome to this latest edition of The Best in the Business. It is the Racehour Weekend Preview. I'm your host, Tom Lee, and together with our sponsors, thanks to Betfred and to Gambling.com, I've teamed up as ever with three of the best, brightest minds in the sport to pick apart the puzzle, which is Saturday's TV racing. One of those big races is a marathon, a 4-mile, 1.5 furlong handicap chase in which the first of our pundits has ridden in. That man is also Cheltenham Festival winning jockey. Good morning, Paddy Aspell.
Good morning, guys. And yeah, just looking back through the records, I think I've maybe had 3 spins in the eye. They're not gotten very close, unfortunately, but they have been rewarded with some nice ground tomorrow and a good field, 18 runners. But I think we're often lured into this sort of roundabout 10 stone, fresher legs, sort of 7 or 8-year-old that you want to be in with. But the stats don't lean that way for an either. It's sort of 11 to maybe mid 11 stone range, and you're slightly older, experienced, wiser heads, 9 or 10-year-olds. So that's maybe the way I'll be leaning tomorrow.
Come on, Paddy, we'll be talking about that momentarily. But if we need stamina, believe you me, we also need speed this weekend. And perhaps the man to provide it is Get Your Tips Out, Joe Norris. Hi, Joe.
Hi, mate. Yeah, good to be back on. It was a bit of a shock to the system, getting stuck into flat racing again on the all-weather. But yeah, hopefully got a couple of nice bets lined up.
Yeah, Joe will be covering off the listed Heaver Sprint Stakes at 5 furlongs. What a segue that is from one of the longest races of the calendar to one of the shortest. And never knowingly undersold, she's back for more. The punter's favourite. Come on in, Tanya Stevenson.
Yeah, hi Tom. Really looking forward to Kempton as well, which is an absolute belter of a card. And maybe not concentrate on the big meeting in March with Kempton, more so a Aintree meeting. Some of these horses are suitably running at Kempton on what is quicker ground, so look to Liverpool.
Could you be talking about Mondo Man in that 225? We will find out in a wee short while. First off, though, we're going to kick off because we go around the courses sports report style. We've got Newcastle, we've got Southwell. As Tanya said, we've got Kempton. Paddy, it falls on your shoulders, please, to tell us about that race that, as we already noted, you've ridden in. And for all that there's going to be some hopefully decent ground in the northeast, it is a big old staying test. The Ida Chase, 210 Newcastle.
Yeah, it certainly is. And we've got last year's winner returning here. Slightly more weight this time round in Anglers Crag, but we know Brian Ellison loves a Gosford Park winner, doesn't he? And he's got a very solid chance because he arrives here in reasonable order. Anglers Crag, a 10-year-old, 11 stone 8. He really is ticking the stats box here. Craig Nicholl is doing the steering this time round because obviously Henry Brook is on board for his boss here and got a real solid chance, albeit the betting doesn't say so. In Gaborio, I was surprised to see him as big as he was, around about 14s, but certainly not the case for Anglers Crag. He is 9-1. O'Connell at the top for Joe Parkinson and Sue Smith, the inform Joe Parkinson and Sue Smith. And the man on board, Peter Cavan, has been coming in for plenty of rides for the stable and have plenty of luck as well. And this chap is certainly arriving here in rude health. Again, plenty of weight to carry, but he's a very, very likeable horse. Wouldn't put anybody off him at all. But I've gone with an 8-year-old here in the Mark Walford. Choose the News. He's got plenty of previous round here, this horse. I think his profile would suggest that maybe he's not always been the easiest to keep sound or just ever so slightly fragile, but he's extremely talented. He are in very good nick. Under both codes, it must be said, they love to land a little touch, does Mark Walford, but he's not going to do that here with Choose the News because we know plenty about this fella, but he does tend to turn up and give it running. And the one thing I like about this chap is he's a strong traveller. He generally, touching wood, I know there is 1 or 2 letters in there as well, but he's generally a good jumper, this fella, and the course form is obviously a positive. Jamie Hamilton, stable jockey, I suppose you could call him, for Mark Walford. 8-year-old, 11 stone 4, round about 10, 11-1. I thought he was certainly the way to go for me here, but they've been well rewarded. A strong 18-runner field, and for a change, some reasonable ground to go at.
Choose the News for Paddy. Currently, as we're recording, 10-1 each way with our sponsors, Betfred, who offer 5 places on their website for each way wagers. Choose the News. And from Choose the News, we're going to choose the Norris. Joe Norris, 210 Southwell, 240 Southwell, I should say, is that 5 furlong listed Heaver Sprint Stakes. I cannot think of any other occasion, Joe, where you segue from arguably, and there aren't many, certainly one of the top 3 or 4 staying distance chases into a listed 5 furlong sprint, the front 2 of which in the betting, both rated 110, including the hat-trick seeker Marshman.
Yeah.
Which way to play this?
Well, I actually think we've got the wrong favourite here. I think Diligent Harry should be favourite. Now, probably sounds a bit silly because Marshman beat him 4 lengths at Lingfield. But, you know, Marshman's 0 from 4 over 5 furlongs. He did win a group race in France over 5.5, but I'd still be a bit worried about him over this minimum trip. I don't like stall 1 at Southwell either. I think you can sort of get isolated over there. He's got to carry a penalty as well. And I just think 5-2 just seems too short. Obviously, Diligent Harry won this last year. You know, I watched that race back this morning. After the first furlong, he had the race won. Like, once he latched onto him, he always, like, cruised through the race. Couldn't have won it any easier. He's in stall 8 this time, which I think will suit him even better. Also, that Lingfield run, I think it screamed that he needed it. You know, the jockey, I think, only hit him once. He's got to improve a lot. And, you know, you got William Buick taking the ride as well. You look at his record on the all-weather. He's run 5 times over 5 furlongs. He's won twice, but the 3 losses came on turf and the 2 wins came on the all-weather. So he's a really good all-weather horse, and I think he should be favourite, and I think he'll win.
Diligent Harry, confident suggestion from Joe in the 240 at Southwell. Sticking with Southwell, come on in, Tanya. Not often that we relegate you to 3rd in the list, but you're anything other than first in the affections of viewers of this programme. I'm absolutely certain of that, particularly if you can solve this winter derby, the Group 3 at 3:15 at Southwell, for which we've got a strong favourite in Royal Champion. But knowing you, there'll be a value option further down the list. Or is there?
Yeah, there certainly is. This race offers up being 1 mile 3 furlongs. The tricky puzzle of stamina question marks. And I know that obviously Royal Champion heads the market, having run at Lingfield last time, of all things, to beat the Tyrrhenian Sea. That horse obviously came out subsequently and really franked the form. Now, Carl Burke will have a line into Military Academy in the race, in the fact that he trains A. Merrick, who Military Academy has met a couple of times and beaten. Well, Royal Champion has been a bit nomadic, shall we say. Used to be trained by Roger Varian, then went to Australia with the Freedmans, and Carl's only had Royal Champion for 1 run, and is a listed performer. Obviously, it's going to be getting better and better, and has acquired that, has got that rating dropping down to 113. That's all good. Will Royal Champion stay when you're up against some real stayers? In the fact of Military Academy, who's got the cheek pieces on for the first time, trained by the Gosdens, who have farmed the Winter Derby in recent years, whether that be at Lingfield. This time round for a 2nd year running is at Southwell. And in just 4 races, Military Academy has acquired a very handy rating of 109, but the only experience, shall we say, of all-weather has been at Kempton. But we know Military Academy stays and has come up against Burdett Road, which is very, very handy, but just was no match for Burdett Road, but did run, as I say, and beat A. Merrick, which helps Carl Burke try and work out if you can and can't beat Military Academy. But there's just not 2 horses in this race. Jane Chapel-Hyam's got a couple. She's got Champagne Prince and Claymore, who met each other in the Winter Derby trial, which at least gave us a line in. And Champagne Prince, you couldn't have won any easier, but it wasn't really a trial. I mean, he went out in front and then just eased across the line. But this is going to be very, very tough because Richard Hannon bowls an absolute beamer in here by throwing in Persica. Absolute beauty. Now, Persica's form on the all-weather is few and far between. And when he ran on the all-weather, it was when he was just rated high 80s, low 90s. Different Persica these days, much, much different. It's he's improved no end. And And we saw just his little strength in the Doonside Cup at Ayr, where many horses came to challenge him, including Iden in the last final stages, and he just kept going. The run, though, that I want to concentrate on, and Persica is my selection in this race, was when he went into that little race called the Champion Stakes, which is obviously, you can't really get too much better over the 10 furlongs, the Champion Stakes. Sean Levy was minded to drop him out last as soon as the stalls opened. And then suddenly, as when that bell went, he didn't take the orthodox way round. He went round the wide outside, so he used up most of the ground. But goodness me, with about a furlong and a half to go, he hit the front. I mean, he travelled so beautifully in that Champion Stakes, and he hit the front. And I think, all things considered, it had been a really long season for Persica. He hit the front, and in the end, he just got a little bit tired against Group 1 horses. There's no Group 1 horses in this race, and Persica was improving. He has had the all-weather, as I say. Hopefully he will stay. He's only had one previous run over the mile and a half. But his acceleration in that key part of that Champion Stakes brings me to think that he'll go very well here. So I'm with Richard Hannon. Sean Levy's riding exceptionally well at the moment on the all-weather. So I'm going with Persica.
What did I tell you? She never, ever lets us down with our programme sponsors, Betfred. Persica, at the time we're recording, is 9-2. Tanya, if you'll pardon the phrase, is presenting to you Persica.
Yes.
150 Kempton. Grade 2, the Pendle Novices Chase. Paddy, one of your many allies and associates and confidants in Ireland, sends over Ashdale Bob here, Mrs. Harrington, who must have a shout. But this is a tricky little race, this Grade 2, over just further than 2 mile, 4.5. There'll be no hanging about on the flat speed track. Good jumping test. What wins, Paddy Aspell, the 150 at Kempton Park?
Yeah, plenty of speed on here, Tom, for sure. And the horse you mentioned, Ashdale Bob, they've gone jumping fences with this fella pretty late in the day. Only had the 5 starts for a 10-year-old. But that said, he's doing very, very little wrong currently. So no surprise to see Jessie send this fella over. And she's had a bit of luck, hasn't she, with recent runners that she sent over the water. So certainly would be in a hurry to put a line through him. This is a hard one to weigh up, really, because Rubo obviously tipped up first time over fences for Paul Nicholls and just struggled to read anything from that run. And last time at Bangor again, I mean, Harry Skelton on Load of Sud, he really opened him up down the back. So he was entitled to get tired on that long run-in from the back of the last at Warwick, which really can seem to take forever at times. And Rubo, who looked like he was going to be, well beaten at one stage, he's kept going again. So he's obviously got a little bit of a question to answer going up to the 2.5 mile tomorrow. But what he did at Warwick last time would certainly encourage you. Now, again, we've got to say, I'm not one that's in agreement that Paul Nicholls is out of form because he's having his winners. It's just because his expensive recruits are getting beaten. But generally, his yard form is pretty good. One or two of his horses just aren't seeing it out right at the business end. And that's a phrase that he's used himself. So because of that, on the numbers, there isn't a great deal between himself and Imperial Saint. But on what we've seen so far, I do think that Philip Hobbs and Johnson's White, Imperial Saint, is the stronger stayer. Now, he's coming out of handicap company and into graded races here, which obviously is another question for him. But he's got point-to-point experience, a very, very likeable horse. And although we mentioned this is going to be a speed test, this fella, one thing is for sure, won't be lacking for stamina. So very, very tight call here, but I'm going to go Imperial Saint to continue the absolute resurgence of the Philip Hobbs and Johnson White team.
Yeah, and a little mention there as well for the man who rides Imperial Saint. That is Mihal Nolan, who is riding absolutely brilliantly. Now he's been given the number 1 rider position there for Philip Hobbs. He is absolutely shining in the spotlight. Could Imperial Saint be a current 5-2 with Betfred the solution to that 150 at Kempton? Paddy certainly thinks so. And a little bit of housekeeping as well, folks. If you're tuning in for the first time, or if you're an infrequent watcher, you may not know you can follow us on X, on Twitter, at @_Racehour. @_Racehour is the Twitter handle if you want to pick up the latest on the Racehour action. Plenty of other shows apart from this weekend preview. Although, of course, and we're not biased at all, we're the best, aren't we, folks? So the other ones, great respect to them. But it's the Racehour weekend preview. This is the shining light. I'm absolutely sure you'll agree. 225 Kempton, 2 miles for the Grade 2 Adonis Juvenile Hurdle. Joe, a line, please, before you tell us your selection about a horse called Mondo Man, because the thing that really leaps off the page here for this young horse, 5th in a French Derby, 4th at Royal Ascot. Betfred showing great respect because he's put in only 14-1 with them. Some firms are bigger for the Triumph Hurdle in 3 or 4 weeks' time. What to make of Mondo Man? And will he win the 225, or will it be something at a bigger price?
Yeah, I am a fan of this horse. I mean, I'm a fan of Lalumba, so I've got to be a fan of Mondo Man. Obviously, the Ascot run just raced so keen throughout the whole race, throwing his head all over the place, gave Caelan Quinn no chance to settle it, and, inevitably got tired away from the last, but, stayed on well enough, I thought, having been keen. Obviously, Lalumba, I felt got first run in that as well, sort of nipped away from the last and then, was home in front. But I saw an interview of Gary Moore. He actually said he was surprised how keen he was in that race because at home, he doesn't really do a tap. If he settles here, then he should just be too good for these. I think OPEC for James Owen, that filly's got to go forward, should set a good gallop, which should help him settle. It was his first run for ages as well. So I think, he's entitled to be keen. But the Nichols horse, it does interest me. I backed it at Cheltenham on trials day. It's probably the first horse beat in that race, I think. But, you look at Nichols' record in this race down the years, he's done well. He won it last year with Khalif de Burle. I remember he won it with Zubair. This horse sort of reminds me of that horse a bit. So I do think we can see a better run from this Sauvignon. But I'm not confident it'll beat Mondo Man. So I looked at the without market. It's around 7-2 without the favourite. I've backed the lumber for the Triumph, so I want to see Mondo Man go and win this well. But yeah, I think Sauvignon could run well.
Yeah, it could be a big weekend for the Moore family down in the south coast there, because of course they got this Mondo Man in that 225 at Kempton, and of course coming up on Sunday at 3:00 in the National Spirit, the Grade 2 at Fontwell. They've got one of their stable stars, Salva, who looks certain to run a big race down there. So could the Moors be lighting up this weekend? Very likely. 3:00 Kempton. Tanya, you mentioned already that it might not be all about teeing up Cheltenham because, of course, Aintree is also on the horizon.
Yeah.
Kempton Park being the frying pan flat speed test it is, racing around that right-hand bend. And yet, it's great to see a trainer like Stuart Edmonds, who maybe doesn't get the credit he deserves, going into this Dovecote, the Grade 2 novice, with a potentially good one like Miami Magic, who, if the bookies is be believed, at least has a little bit of a squeak. Fred go 33-1 this fella for the Supreme Novice.
He's a lovely fella, Miami Magic. We got a lot of if-onlys here. If only we could have actually seen the Formby hurdle, because we couldn't, and that was the key. The visibility of the fog stopped us seeing exactly the important key parts. We did see, obviously, Miami Magic finish second to Potter's Charm. We didn't see what happened to Road Less Travel, which was key, I think, with this race. We shouldn't ignore Road Less Travel. It got pulled up. For all we know, it might have made some horrendous errors before the decision was to make pull it up. Celtic Dino was in the race as well, so we're a little bit lost into what happened to those two, because this is a tremendous contest. We're gathering together some form of horses that have won by a long margin in lesser races that could be superstars. Miami Magic already is. The key for me there was the way that Charlie Hammond deliberately kept Miami Magic a long way, width of the track away from Potter's Charm as they jumped the last. And it battled on really bravely. Miami Magic is key, the one to beat here. Tripoli Flyer could not have won any easier at Musselburgh. And Johnny Burt must have loved it, because Tripoli Flyer wanted to jump the hurdles before Johnny did. And that's what you love, the enthusiasm of a horse such as that. He won the Scottish Supreme and he won it very, very easily. Royos, I worry about this one because it takes a really keen hold, the Ben Pauling horse. That said, though, won nicely at Uttoxeter, but that has a danger of running away with things. But then this race is going to be run much quicker than the Uttoxeter race, which will help it. Starcross Lover looked as though it was heading down to the start when it won its race at Hereford. But once again, we're stepping up massively in class, and Starcross Lover had finished behind Bellocchio in Ireland, so that's key. We saw a different Andershan at Kempton last time in a maiden hurdle, had finished what I thought looked a little bit tired at Fontwell, then came to Kempton and just Rex Stingle just had to sit because it just won by as far as you like. And then we get to Road Less Travel, who come into the race having won and beat a country mile at Haydock and then got pulled off at Atri. We don't know what happened, but please do not dismiss the horse. It's very good. Celtic Dino can come along with a right old swagger, although finishing fourth in the Formby, can hold its hand up and say, the race before I beat Wade Out and a horse called Joyers. So my form looks pretty good, and Sam Thomas won it last year. But Alan King used to love this race. He's got Blue Singer. That's a bit of a bold statement, running your first hurdle race in a Dovecote. But when all's said and done, Miami Magic comes into this contest having really taken it to Potter's Charm at Aintree, really taken it to Aintree, and had run here at Kempton. Has got the experience of Kempton as well, the experience of the speed track, and comes in here with a rare old favourites chance, and I think will be very, very tough to beat. They might travel well, but what we saw from Miami Magic can go into a battle. It's rare for me to really sit with a favourite here, but I just feel that he's already proved himself in a Grade 1, and we're dropping down in class here in a Grade 2. I'll go with Miami Magic.
Ladies and gents, do not adjust your sets. It has just happened, possibly for the first time ever. And I've been working with her more than 20 years. Tanya Stevenson has just tipped her favourite. I think she needs the smelling salts and a lie down and possibly antibiotics. It's a very rare occurrence. But Tanya, Miami Magic, jokes aside, 15-8 with Fred as we record the weekend preview show. All three of you, I want you to get stuck in then to the finale, the crescendo of the Saturday TV racing action. It is the 3:35 at Kempton Park. It's been called a few different things down the years. I think once upon a time, quarter of a century ago, it used to be the Racing Post Chase. Now it's the Labrooks Trophy Handicap Chase. What it is a really good prize, plenty of cash up for grabs, and some good animals have come out in pursuit of it. I was at Haydock last Saturday, looking forward on the TV to watching the away races from Ascot, looking forward to that renewal of that rivalry between Ginkgo Blue and Lowry's Bar, until Lowry's Bar defected. He turns up here instead. Paddy, if you were riding again now, heading down to Kempton for this 3:35, who would you want to be on?
Yeah, this is a cracker, Tom, and there's very little between these, sort of the ones at the head of the betting weights-wise. You know, there's a very, very compact handicap at the top of the market here, and some interesting ones, like even Tamaris. He returned right back to form last time at Musselburgh and put in a real strong performance, and he just could be really starting to put it together over fences. Tamaris, an 8-year-old, so certainly wouldn't be ruling him out. Lowry's Bar, he's a good weight carrier, this horse, and which is strange for him. He made a real howler at Windsor last time, which I think probably knocked his confidence and obviously ended his chance. But prior to that, he looked a very, very good jumper. And I mean, when I seen this horse winning last year over hurdles, over the minimum trip, he looked a horse like an awful lot of ability, because you knew that connections were always going to stretch this fella out a trip in time. Highland looks very, very progressive. He ticks all the boxes because he's a good traveller, this fella. And again, he's very, very good on his feet. And the Henderson team, Seven Barrows, been in very, very good nick of late. And he is 11 stone 13, Lowry's Bar 12 stone. Lowry's Bar now has proven in the past he is a good weight carrier. Our Power of Sam Thomas's, he loves it here at Kempton, so you know he's going to turn up and give his running. Paul Nichols' other horse, who Harry Cobden has chosen to ride here in Golden Sun, he might just be a horse who's lurking on a reasonable mark here, just 11 stone. Maybe looks like this has been the plan all the way along. Another horse with a bit of previous round this track. And Lucinda Russell's Corrigeen Rockles, also got to give him a mention. He's won at the track, and he just loves going down south, this horse. and they've landed some nice prizes with this fella in the past. But I'm going to stick with Nicky's Grey here, Highland. It's just very, very difficult to knock this fella. And although there is an awful lot of course and distance on offer here, and he has got plenty of weight, the fact that the weights are so compact, that just edges it here for me. And he just could be slightly more progressive. So I'm with Highland here to give Nico and boss Nicky Henderson another winner and continue the fine run that they've been on now for a few weeks.
Tremendous insight. Thanks, Paddy. Joe, are you rowing in with Highland, or is there something at bigger odds that would catch your eye?
I do like one that Paddy mentioned, actually, Golden Sun. I just think he's off a good weight here. And I thought he was quite eye-catching last time behind Beachcomber. Obviously, that horse has gone up £9 and sort of has to go off the front. I think Golden Sun will be given quite a patient ride. You got Cobden on, obviously won at the track last year, so got course form, which I like. And yeah, I think 9-1. I think that's a good each way price.
Yeah, Golden Sun, the choice of Cobden, still only a 7-year-old, and 11 stone exactly on his back. Tanya. What can we say? Generally speaking, when a big money handicap chase rolls around, you fire a 33-1 torpedo, which generally lands somewhere in the bookmaker's satchel and then relieves them of a huge wad of cash. What is it to be on this occasion, please?
We're not quite 33, but we're not far away. But what I'll say first is that Highland, I agree with Paddy, is going to be a very, very hard horse to beat. A bonny horse that shows the agility and versatility to run with speed and jump exceptionally well at the likes of Cheltenham, beat the likes of Transmission and Moon d'Orange and Bound to Greatness, as well as taking on Grade 1 in Cordo Star, Novices Chase, and just coming up short against the Jukebox Man. But that's because he jumps with such enthusiasm. Weather watch time, though, because Highland loves good ground, but should be fine because at the moment Barney's put up good to soft in places. So Kempton's going to be quick anyway. So we've gone through all the runners. Beachcomber's a big danger to one and all. However, I'm going for way down the betting. Let's go down and a little bit further, because Diane Sayer has never, ever been to Kempton. And Danny, who I was praying was going to make a visit, Danny McMenamin to Kempton, has only had 3 previous rides there. Now, no doubt Danny's forsaken some really good mounts at Newcastle, but he has teamed up brilliantly with Charlie Uberalis, who back in December, won at Donny, beating Dot Pick Me and Forward Plan. What's key there? Well, 2024, this race was won by Forward Plan. And Charlie Uberalis, don't worry that he's not run since December. He hunts the good ground. He really does need the good ground. So that's key there. That's why I mentioned Highland at the top, because if that horse box doesn't leave, it's probably because the rain has come and it's too soft. But Charlie Uberalis shouldn't be, in my mind, this big a price. He's put in some bold displays. He loves the good ground. Dot Pick Me then came out and won the Great Yorkshire Chase. And okay, Charlie Uberalis won by a neck, but he just is so deceptive. He's a big old unit, a cumbersome sort. I checked that he likes going left and right-handed. He does indeed do that. He's won a couple of times at Perth. He's been excellent, has Charlie Uberalis. And I think because it's so tightly handicapped and because there's such big names and good horses towards the top, I worry for Lowry's Bar. I do appreciate Hobbs used to and still does love this race, and he's picked this one for Lowry's Bar, but he needs to be really quick. And that's what Charlie Uberalis is, deceptively so, because Highland's not going to wait for anyone. He's going to say, he's just going to jump off and jump with enthusiasm. So Charlie Uberalis for me each way, Tom. There you go. I didn't disappoint.
Fantastic. Well, Charlie Uberalis, 16-1, 4 places with sponsors Betfred for Tanya there in that 335 Kempton. Joe likes Golden Sun. Paddy likes Highland. A recap of the prior races that we've talked through. Choose the news in the 210 Newcastle, Diligent Harry, the selection in the 240 Southwell, Persica getting the nod in the 315 at Southwell, and then the TV races at Kempton Park, Imperial Saint, Mondo Man, Miami Magic, and the 3 names we've just mentioned in that 335 And that, prior to saying goodbye, leaves us with the all-important duty of relieving you three of your weekend nap. So in the same order we introduced you, we will tax you for that weekend selection. The one horse you could not do without, Paddy Aspell.
Oh, this was a tricky one. Had a few options to go at tomorrow, Tom, but I'm going to try and see if I can get the Fav beat in the Dovecote, because Tanya made a great case for Miami Magic, and I'm sure Stuart Edmonds, he's got a proper one here in Miami Magic. But having watched Tripoli Flyer go around Musselburgh last time, he did more than enough to get himself beat that day, because the revs were just far too high early doors, and the way he's seen the race out would just tell me that he's got an awful lot of ability, this sort of getaway. We've not seen much of him over hurdles, but he's got some lovely bumper form. But just the way he came home that day, and Kempton, very, very similar setup for him tomorrow, going right-handed, flat track, plenty of pace on here with the likes of Ricey, who has only got one way of going, and that is pretty hard. So hopefully he will race a bit more efficiently tomorrow for Johnny Burke. And although he's got a little bit, or a fair bit to do on the numbers here, one or two of his rivals, and the likes of Andishan, he's won his bumper and was very good here last time. This is a really, really strong renewal, but the way the race might just set up, I think Tripoli Flyer could produce, although only his fourth start over hurdles, a career best tomorrow, and just see if we can get the favourite beat here. So Tripoli Flyer might not tomorrow, but I did have loads of options, but that's the one I've finally stuck the pin in top.
Absolutely top notch as always, Paddy. Thank you very much. Tripoli Flyer for Fergal and Johnny Burke. Joe Norris, the spotlight is yours, sir.
Yeah, I'm going to head to the Pendle at Kempton, and Rhubarb, I think, is a great bet. Couple of weeks ago, I was on, and I said it would run well against Loda Sud. Obviously, only got beaten a length. You look at this race, Nichols always sends quite a good one here. You know, won it down the years with Surname, Picdorhe, Solo. So, you know, he usually puts a good one in this. I know it's up in trip. The way it ran on last at Warwick, you'd think it's going to love going up in trip. And I just think it's a cut above these. So 13-8, you know, not an amazing price, but I think he'll win.
That'll do nicely. So Rubo in the 150 at Kempton for Joe. And last but not least, Tanya Stevenson, take it away. Lots to choose from. You've made some very strong cases on the show already. What's it to be if you can only have one?
I'm going, before ITV go on air, as it happens, we're going for the first at Kempton, and why not? The 115 at Kempton. It's Kempton's generally a track that Nicky Henderson fares exceptionally well in, and in that race, in the 115, he runs Punctuation, who he hasn't had for too long. He's only had for one race. It used to be trained by Fergal O'Brien and trained very well by Fergal. It ran 8th in the Great Woods hurdle not so long ago, and then the last time we saw it before it went to Nicky, ran on the flat, where it won at Goodwood. I don't think you'll see a bigger horse run tomorrow, and you won't miss him. He's huge, and he has a big white blaze. He's only run so far for Nicky was at Doncaster, in one of those races where the low sun intervened, which is not helpful when you are sort of better when you're jumping the hurdles. And a couple of key hurdles were omitted just when he was coming into the contest. Even so, this big old galloper, James Bowen, managed to get this horse into 4th position. Even so, we hadn't seen it since May. So first run back, 4th in what turned out to be a race littered with omitted hurdles. Now we come here to Kempton. James Bowen's back on board again, which is great news. And I think he can certainly exploit the mark he's on in this Kempton first race. Punctuation, he'll be big. I think James will have to bring him to the race as they turn for home, because he's just a big galloper, so you won't accelerate. And that's where it didn't help him at Donny last time, because all the little flat horses were accelerating away from him. But this is a good race for Punctuation to start again.
Brilliant, as always, Tanya. Thank you. Thanks to you at home for watching. How would that be for a cheeky little Kempton Park Saturday afternoon Trixie or a patent? In time order, Punctuation 115, Rubo 150, and Tripoli Flyer in the 3 o'clock. Big thanks to our sponsors. As ever, they are Betfred and Gambling.com. Thanks to you at home for watching and supporting the show. From myself, from Paddy, from Joe, and from Tanya. We'll see you next time. Thanks for being with us. Over and out.
Relentless, remorseless, and pounding